So imagine you're walking through the Alaskan wilderness.
Yeah.
You are miles from civilization, deep in the backcountry.
Sounds pretty amazing, honestly.
Right. But in this scenario, I want you to imagine that you are completely blind. You're completely deaf.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And you have absolutely no sense of smell, no ability to taste, and you cannot feel a single thing.
Wait, nothing at all.
Nothing. No temperature, no pressure, no pain, literally no spatial awareness, just nothing. How long do you think you would actually survive out there?
I mean, under those conditions, survival is measured in hours or, maybe just minutes.
Right.
You'd freeze, or you'd walk straight off a ravine or walk directly into a grizzly bear. An organism with zero awareness of its environment is essentially entirely defenseless against it.
Exactly. And that extreme thought experiment really gets to the heart of what we're doing today.
Welcome back, everyone, to the living workshop of the Bioforge curriculum.
Glad to be here. Yeah, so for this deep dive, we're shifting the paradigm a bit. We usually think of organisms in terms of their physical structure.
Yeah.
Like bones, muscle density, the heart pumping.
Sure, the physical architecture.
Right. But today, we are looking at them as highly responsive, high-speed data processing systems.
Oh, I love that way of framing it.
Yeah. So as a Bioforge signal researcher, your mission today is to see the body as this array of advanced biological antennas. It's constantly pulling in invisible signals from the world, decoding them, and executing a response.
It really shifts the entire perspective of biology because, surviving isn't just about developing sharper claws or thicker fur. It is primarily about gathering better data.
Right. Data is survival.
Exactly. An organism has to receive all this chaotic information from the outside environment, translate it into a language the body actually understands, and then use that data to make split-second decisions.
So to begin this investigation, we have to start at the absolute boundary between the organism and the world. The frontline detectives, basically.
Right.
We always hear the term stimulus, which is just an environmental trigger, right? Like a drop in temperature or a smell or a sound wave.
Yeah, any change in the environment.
But out in the wild, the environment is just this massive, chaotic blizzard of raw energy and chemistry. How does an organism actually grab onto that chaos?
Well, by relying on highly specialized filters, and we call these sensory receptors.
Sensory receptors, got it.
Right. These are the body's detection squad. They're specialized cells designed to pick up one particular type of environmental change and just ignore everything else.
So they're extremely focused.
Exactly. To understand how they work, let's look at a few examples, like chemical receptors, which handle what we experience as smell and taste.
Oh, actually, I was reading about the Pacific salmon's migration, and this is where the mechanics get wild.
Oh, yeah, the salmon are incredible.
Right. An adult salmon uses chemical receptors to find its way back to the exact gravel bed where it was born, navigating thousands of miles of open ocean. It's tracking this incredibly faint chemical signature.
Yeah, and it's not just some vague sense of direction. The water in that specific stream contains a really unique mix of chemicals from the local soil, the plants, the minerals.
So it's basically a specific scent profile.
Exactly. When the salmon takes in water, those microscopic chemical compounds physically bind to sensory receptors inside the salmon. It is a literal lock and key mechanism.
Wait, really? A physical lock and key?
Yeah. If the chemical key fits the receptor lock, it triggers a response. It sends a message.
And we use that exact same lock and key system, right? Like
Yeah.
if you walk outside after a heavy rain and smell the spruce trees.
Oh, yeah, or catch the scent of a neighbor's wood stove fire.
Right. That isn't just some abstract experience. That is microscopic chemical compounds from the smoke physically traveling through the air and locking into the sensory receptors inside your nose.
It's wild to think about, but, relying on chemicals can be slow. You have to wait for the molecules to actually reach you.
Right, the wind has to blow them to you.
Exactly. If you're a prey animal, you often need instant data from far away. So you need to detect sound and vibration.
Like a massive Alaskan moose standing in thick, snowy brush.
Great example.
Its vision is totally blocked by the trees, and maybe the wind is blowing its scent away. So it relies on hearing. A moose has these enormous ears that literally rotate like radar dishes.
Yeah, they're catching incredibly faint sound waves, like the snap of a twig from a predator. But the sound wave itself is just vibrating air.
Right.
So deep inside the moose's ear, there are receptors that detect physical movement. When the air vibrates, it physically moves tiny structures in those cells. That physical push of a sound wave gets translated into a message the body can understand.
Wow. And that same kind of physical detection happens with temperature, touch, and pressure in the skin, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like if you reach out and accidentally grab a hot camping stove, the receptors in your skin detect that extreme heat and pressure.
Yeah, they register that massive change in temperature and physically respond to it. And then, of course, we have light detection.
Right, seeing things.
Exactly. Receptors in the eyes detect light, which allows organisms to map their surroundings instantly.
Looking at all these different mechanisms like lock and key for chemicals, detecting movement for sound, feeling pressure, and detecting light, it reminds me of weather instruments at a field station.
Oh, how so?
Well, a thermometer only reads temperature, right? And a rain gauge only catches water. It's like, does that mean a light receptor in your eye literally can't hear a sound, and a sound receptor in your ear can't smell smoke?
That is exactly what it means. The specialization is absolute. A receptor in your nose is completely deaf to sound waves. A receptor in your ear is entirely blind to light.
They just filter out everything else.
Yeah, they take the absolute chaos of the environment and filter it into specific, clean data streams.
But, capturing the data is only the first step. If a remote weather station in Denali records a massive drop in temperature but the transmitter is broken, the scientists back at the lab don't know a blizzard is coming.
Right. The information is useless if it just sits there.
Exactly. The frontline detectives have to send the information somewhere.
And this brings us to a foundational rule of science. The core of this whole biological process is basically cause and effect.
Cause and effect. Okay, so break down that pathway for us, like for our Bioforge signal researchers.
Sure. So it's a simple step-by-step pathway. Step 1 is the cause, which is the environmental trigger.
Like the hot stove.
Right. Step 2 is the receptor response. The specialized cells detect that heat. Step 3 is crucial. The message is sent along nerve pathways zooming up to the central control center.
The brain.
Yes, the brain. And finally, step 4 is the effect. The brain processes that information and decides on a behavior or stores it as a memory.
Stimulus, receptor, message to the brain, and then behavior or memory.
Got it. But wait, let's talk about that control center for a second, because this is where the whole process gets kind of counterintuitive.
How do you mean? Well, we walk around feeling like we have a direct window into reality. We feel connected to the trees, the light, the cold snow. But the biological reality is that the brain is locked inside the skull.
Yeah, that's a really important misconception to bust right here. The brain does not magically know what is happening outside the body.
It's just sitting in a dark, silent vault. It has no eyes, no ears, no skin.
Exactly. The brain is completely isolated. Think of a submarine commander sitting in a metal room deep at the bottom of the ocean.
Okay.
The commander can't just look out a window to see the trench. They rely 100% on the sonar pings, the pressure gauges, and the sensor readouts coming through the wiring.
Right.
The brain operates the exact same way. It relies entirely on these incoming messages from sensory receptors to understand the world.
Wait. Let me push back on this a little bit.
Sure, go for it.
Let's go back to that hot stove. If I touch a hot stove, my finger physically hurts. I feel the throbbing, searing heat right there in my hand. But based on this volt model you're describing, my finger doesn't actually know it's hot, does it?
Your finger doesn't know anything.
Really?
Really. The sensory receptor in the skin of your finger simply acts as a biological fire alarm. When it detects the extreme heat, it fires a message up the nerve pathway to the brain.
Okay.
The brain is what actually receives that signal, processes the information, and registers the sensation of heat and pain.
But I feel the pain in my hand, not my head.
Right, because the brain projects the sensation back to the source. It maps the data to the location of the alarm to force you to pull your hand away and protect that specific body part. But the actual knowing that you are in pain, that happens entirely inside the skull.
That is absolutely wild.
It is.
Okay, so the receptor captures the data, the nerve acts as the wire to send the message, and the brain processes the information. But once the brain gets this data, it has to make a choice, right? Like you said in step 4 of the pathway, the effect is either an immediate behavior or it gets stored as a memory.
Exactly. There's a fork in the road. Many signals demand an instant physical response just to survive.
Like you don't have time to think about it.
Right. The organism doesn't have the luxury of pondering the data. It needs to react in real time.
I feel like the ultimate example of that has to be a team of Alaskan sled dogs running a trail. They are just a massive network of immediate behavior.
Oh, perfect example. A sled dog running at high speed over unpredictable terrain is constantly sending sensory data to its brain.
Like feeling the trail.
Yeah, the receptors in its paws detect the feeling of the snow. Is it slick ice? Is it deep powder? Those pressure signals travel up to the brain, and the brain instantly processes that information.
And it creates this endless feedback loop. The brain gets the pressure data, computes the terrain, and instantly sends a message back to the muscles telling them to adjust their stride or shift their balance.
When this is all happening in fractions of a second, step after step?
While at the exact same time the dog is listening.
Yes. The musher yells a voice command like, "Gee," signaling a right turn. The sound wave hits the dog's ear, receptors send the message to the brain, and the brain translates that audio cue into a massive shift in behavior.
The whole team turns right.
Exactly. That is immediate behavior dictated by continuous sensory input.
Okay, so that's the act right now pathway. It's rapid, it's reflexive. But what about the other side of the fork? Because sometimes a stimulus doesn't require you to jump or run or turn in that exact millisecond.
Right. Sometimes the brain takes that incoming data and routes it into the archives. Storage as memory.
Why save it instead of acting on it?
Because processing information for the future helps organisms survive long term. Consider a raven in the interior of Alaska.
Okay, those birds are incredibly smart.
Very. So as winter approaches, food gets scarce, right? It gets buried under feet of snow. When a raven finds a scavenged piece of meat, it doesn't always eat it immediately. It might hide it behind a specific rock formation near a uniquely shaped spruce tree.
So the raven uses its visual receptors to take in the landscape. The light hits its eyes, sends the message to the brain. But instead of triggering a behavior to run away or attack, it saves it.
Exactly. The brain weaves those visual cues, the rock, the tree, into a cognitive map. It stores that specific location as a memory. Months later, when everything is covered in snow, the raven accesses that stored memory, navigates back to the exact spot, and retrieves the food.
And we see that exact same thing with the salmon we talked about earlier.
Oh, right, the chemical memory.
Yeah. When a young salmon is living in its home stream, its chemical receptors are constantly pulling in the unique smell of the water. It isn't reacting to that smell with an immediate behavior. It's creating a memory file.
A memory that lasts for years while it's out in the open ocean. When it's time to spawn, the salmon uses that memory. It compares the real-time smells coming from its chemical receptors against the stored memory until they match perfectly, steering it all the way home.
Hearing these examples side by side, it becomes obvious that behavior and memory aren't totally separate things. They really work together.
How do you mean?
Well, let's go back to the sled dog turning right when it hears the word G. That immediate behavior is actually completely dependent on memory.
Oh, absolutely.
The raw sound wave of the word G doesn't just naturally mean turn right. The dog's brain has to receive that sound, cross-reference it with a stored memory from past training to know what it means, and then execute the immediate behavior.
That's a great point. This interacting system where sensors detect reality, the brain processes it using memory, and then creates a behavior is what keeps organisms alive. It learns, it adapts.
It's an incredibly dynamic system. You know, when you trace the entire cause and effect pathway, from the environmental stimulus to the receptor detecting it, to the message traveling to the dark vault of the brain, ending in either a behavior or a memory, you realize just how much heavy lifting our biology is doing just to get through a single day.
It's a continuous, uninterrupted conversation between the outside world and the inner control center.
So, to wrap up our shift in the living workshop today, I want to pose a thought experiment to you, our listener. As you go out the rest of your day, try to catch this system in action.
Yeah, pay attention to your own sensors.
Exactly. Think about your own day. What is one specific stimulus you encountered today? What receptor detected it? And did it cause an immediate behavior or become a stored memory?
That's a great field assignment.
And as a Bioforge signal researcher, here's your final objective. I want you to be able to say, I can gather and combine information to explain how sensory receptors detect stimuli and send messages to the brain for behavior or memory.
Perfect. And, to leave you with one final mystery to mull over.
Ooh, I love a good mystery.
Well, we've mapped out the receptors we know, right? Light, sound, touch, temperature, and chemicals. But the physical universe is filled with other types of invisible energy. For example, we know the Earth is wrapped in massive magnetic fields.
But we don't have receptors to feel that. We're totally blind to it.
We are. But science suggests other animals aren't. We are finding evidence that migrating birds might actually have specific receptors in their eyes that let them literally see the Earth's magnetic fields.
Wait, really?
Yeah. And there might be similar receptors in salmon acting as internal compass needles. The natural world is absolutely saturated with invisible signals, and evolution has likely built antennas perfectly tuned to receive them that we are only just beginning to understand.
Wow. It completely reframes that wilderness scenario we started with.
Mm.
Even if you have perfect human vision and hearing, you are still walking through a landscape totally oblivious to the magnetic forces guiding the animals all around you. It makes you wonder how much of reality we are missing simply because we lack the receptors for it.
Definitely something to think about.
We'll keep tracing those pathways, keep questioning the signals, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.